Hey everyone, I'm Alex from Cytonox, and today I'll be ranking the zombies maps of Call of Duty Black Ops 4 from worst to best. Jack and I are no strangers to holding controversial opinions, but I think that nowhere is that more apparent than my thoughts in the realm of Call of Duty zombies. I don't really enjoy BO2 zombies, my favorite map in BO3 is Revelations, and I actually like BO4 zombies. Every video I make on this series makes me feel like Martin Luther pinning his 95 Theses on the door of the Catholic Church. Anyways, while definitely worse than BO3 zombies, in no small part due to the mini-maps that make Shadows of Evil look like Nocturne on Toten in terms of complexity, BO4 has a special place in my heart as being my introduction to zombies as a whole. This, in retrospect, is probably behind a lot of my heretical takes on the series now that I think about it. This unfocused rambling is for another video though, as today it's all about seeing where the maps sit in relation to one another. Let's get into it. Where do I even start with this rotten ass map? The Easter egg is fucking impossible by yourself. BO4 has the hardest Easter eggs of any of the games in my opinion, simply because there's just nothing that overpowered like Gobblegums in BO3 for example. Wonder weapons in this game are horrible half the time, and all of the normal perks have been replaced with useless bullshit like Death Perception and Ethereal Razor. Perkaholic is almost impossible to get, and even if you did get it, it wouldn't do squat. So in order to complete this final dreaded Easter egg, I enlisted the help of a professional, a guy I met on a COD Zombies Discord server who just so happened to be the previous world record holder. This guy was a monster. I barely did anything and we still finished in like 40 minutes somehow. It was like watching a death match between Mike Tyson and a blind toddler. As it happens, this was the most fun I'd ever had on Voyage of Despair, and I was just teleporting around due to shit internet half the time. That's because by yourself, it's a brutally difficult slog. If you like difficulty, I could understand liking this map, but this was too much for me. I still get lost because every room looks the exact fucking same. It's got like 6 different floors or something, running across from front to back takes like a minute and a half at best. Getting Pack-a-Punch requires you to travel to the far corners of the map and spend your life savings and points to open up all the doors, crippling your offense no matter how you play it. Either you're strafing people on round 8 with a shitty mystery box gun on the side, or you've got Pack-a-Punch open with no guns to use it with and no perks. This is a map that basically requires you to play it with a series of guides pulled up on YouTube unless you have the memory of a supercomputer. I've only got the Kraken once in my life, and it was pretty dead average. It's not great for crowd control, and it just feels kinda like a Blundergat reskin. The boss zombies, the Stokers, are kinda cool I guess. They're inoffensive, not as iconic as Panzers or Margwas, but not bottom rung bullshit like the Blightfathers. Good thing they show up too! Bravo! Bravo! Woo! Couldn't let you have too much fun now, could they? The Easter egg, as I said earlier, is cryptic nonsense, only one level below the Revelations Easter egg in terms of confusing design. Shoot some pipes, hang around some power outlets, set these clocks, shoot these planets. This stuff isn't unheard of, obviously, but they do not make it simple. The boss fight is absolutely brutal. I was dead for most of it because there was some situation that arose where I had to sacrifice myself for the good of the group to lower its health, but from what I could tell, we'd have been screwed if I didn't have our guide running the show. Ultimately, we had a time clocking in at around 7th place or so for 4 players according to speedrun.com, which is pretty funny considering the circumstances. Maybe I ought to submit that run sometime. Anyways, there is basically no fun to be had on this map. It's got close quarters almost as brutal as Shangri-La and awkward underwater segments like Zetsuba no Shima. Voyage of Despair is ugly. Voyage of Despair is boring. Voyage of Despair is unforgiving. Voyage of Despair is a failure of titanic proportions worse than anything else in Treyarch zombie history, and I will never touch it again so long as I live. I don't think this map is objectively bad, but it's a bit too obtuse for my taste. I feel like it's just a bit too large to work well, first off. The boat worked fine in the original Call of the Dead, but here I feel like it was more of an awkward appendage. People complain about that for Blood of the Dead, but at least all you need to do to navigate that is run around or take fast travel or whatever. And Tag, you need to jump through an entire circus worth of hoops just to play a normal casual fucking game. The crank is a stupid mechanic. The zipline should just start out functional, or at least let you adjust them without needing to make a buildable crank. Might as well mention that the wonder weapons are both underwhelming as all hell. I haven't seen such a sad display since the jet gun. The Tundra gun is literally a hindrance between it damaging you and leaving zombies in their collision boxes lingering long after they're shot at. In general, the shittiest wonder weapons often have the common trait of not removing zombies from the equation upon impact, and instead having them just slow down first or something. The Sniper Wunderwaffe isn't outright offensively bad, but it's just not at all close to the utility of the original. The Thunder Gun is present, but it's also the biggest pain in the ass to get them in terms of all the accompanying Easter eggs, so have fucking fun. Speaking of Easter eggs, this one sucks more dick than a room full of hookers. There's no boss fight, instead being replaced by this confusing and unwieldy safe zone mechanic thing that I could not be bothered to get footage of. Did the Easter egg once by myself and never again. The steps leading up to it are just as tedious and unenjoyable as would be expected of the map though. In terms of pure casual enjoyability, this map suffers even more. The amount of doors makes Zetsubo no Shima look generous. It totally fucks up the progression and leaves you dangerously poor for the most important parts of the game. To me, the Tag der Toten experience has always been knifing zombies with my Strife until round 9, perkless and with one shitty mystery box SMG, pausing every 90 seconds or so to check my phone for a reminder on how to unfreeze a cauldron of soup with a key inside. The ending is at least better than the garbage Revelations left things off with, although I was personally hoping for a happy ending for the gang. Tag der Toten had a few positives like the cool lab area and the lighthouse being neat, but it's such an overwhelmingly unnecessary remake that there's just little to no fun value. They even removed the cool snowstorm effect, which accounted for a lot of the grittiness of the original, leaving this one the vastly inferior version visually as well. Ending off the entire Aether storyline with Marlton and co mucking around a map we'd already experienced in a far superior way years ago was just a bitter way to cap stuff off for me. The map classified as a remake of 5 is one of the most divisive BO1 maps. Some people love it, and some people have a hatred for the Pentagon Thief so intense that he ruins the map across the board for them. Well, this is the map for those people because he's gone for some reason now. I don't have many strong feelings on this map, to be honest. It's not very hard to learn, which is refreshing, and it can be a nice casual one if you like pitching a tent in the elevator and holding R2 while listening to an audiobook. The Easter egg is so ridiculous that I can't even hate on it. It might as well be an April Fool's Day prank. They put zero effort into it whatsoever, just decided they'd arbitrarily show you a cutscene if you made it to round 200. That's if you're lucky and don't get blue screened, a rather notorious shortcoming of BO4 and its rotten spaghetti code as a whole. If you're one of the few madmen who have actually done this, you are a more patient man than I. The wonder weapon, the Winter's Whale, isn't great, but it's kind of fun nonetheless. It's like the Tundra Gun if it wasn't as much of a dysfunctional scrap heap. It'd be nice if it took less than like 5 shots to freeze zombies past round 20, but it is what it is. There are a few things I find annoying about it though. Like, why on earth they make you assemble the electric trap is beyond me. I feel like to make something buildable, it should have some minimum level of coolness or uniqueness to merit memorizing the locations and stuff. The electric trap is of middling usefulness and has always been a staple since Verupt. I don't know why anyone would bother going out of their way to set this thing up. The DEFCON system for Pack-a-Punch is also a pain in the ass. I feel like after doing it once, it should just add the Groom Lake destination into the cycle of the central teleporter permanently. Also, fucking overcrawlers. Overall, Classified is basically a mid-map with nothing to do, but not annoying enough to make me be like, damn, this map sucks, yo. I really liked this map on release, which is funny because BO2 Nuketown is a boring map that I never particularly wanted remastered. It's carried pretty far by Rushmore. That guy cracks me up and is my favorite Zombies NPC to date. The Easter egg is pretty fun other than having to lob the Wraithfire into the chimney for one of the ray guns, which is like trying to shoot a fly out of the air with a spitball from a mile away. It's impossible. The big issue though is the Nova Crawlers and Generators. These don't sound significant on paper, but holy shit, whoever thought these things should work the way they do should be hung from a flagpole by their underwear or dunked in a toilet. The generators, much like the ones from Origins, shut off every few rounds and require that you go over and fix it, which is a pointless hassle. It's like they remembered people liked Origins, so they imported one of the single most annoying mechanics from that map thinking it would be a hit. The crawlers are worse here than any other map due to the sheer volume they come in, to the extent that some people even advocate never turning the power on to keep them out of the equation at the expense of Pack-a-Punch and perks. The 4 different ray gun models are all fun to use, even if their usefulness is middling. The infinite ammo one stands out as being both satisfying and rather reliable, although there's nothing on the level of monsters like the pre-patched Liquefier in terms of sheer camping value. Bringing back Avogadro from Transit was a strange move to be sure, but I actually kinda liked the boss fight. It was at least simple and not hard to understand like some fights in the game. Overall, Alpha Omega is a rather unmemorable map that at least for me was more of a one and done do the Easter egg then never touch it again kind of experience that I never really asked for, but it could have been way worse than it was. And thus so it is that the title of coolest Alpha Omega goes to Virgil from Devil May Cry 5. Call of Duty Zombies has transported us to many fantastical locations over the years. The fallen city of Stalingrad, the battlefields of World War I, the end of the universe itself, and most horrible of all, Hagerstown Hall, or Alcatraz. Easy to confuse the two. Yeah, controversial-ish take here, considering this usually takes second to last on most people's list. Kicking off Treyarch's weird trend of mangling beloved classic maps into the BO4 engine, there was Blood of the Dead, primarily hated for its comically large map size and frustrating Easter egg. I'd like to preface this segment by saying that I am by no means a fan of Blood of the Dead, and am just as bothered by its myriad flaws as anyone else. The spawn area being 45 seconds away from the main core part of the map is not only irritating but absolutely pointless, considering how few things of note there are in that new area. I don't see why they couldn't have just put those buildings right outside the main entrance where the yard is or something. The Easter egg also has some evil-ass steps. The Morse code one is a nightmare to do solo, and even with a seasoned veteran running stuff, we still got roadblocked there for a couple rounds due to it being generally awkward. The powerhouse step is also diabolical, even a league of its own, might I add, considering how long it is and how it makes you totally restart if you fuck it up. The sheer amount of spectral blast needed is absurd when you factor in how comically long it takes to get even a single zombie soul. These gripes aside, I have a soft spot for this map all the same. It was one of the first Easter eggs I ever attempted with my good buddy Emil, who some of you may vaguely know from our Discord server, although ironically enough it was also the last Easter egg I ever completed. The story aspect of it is great, and the ending cutscene is the best in all of Zombies in my opinion, in terms of impactfulness. Rick Doffin is my favorite character, so it's a real downer seeing his kindest, or should I say nicest iteration meet one of the worst fates imaginable, being essentially erased from existence and killed in a horrifying way to boot. It really is, as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. The Warden is a cool mini-boss, considering he has a rather intricate story, the gift of speech, and a presence few zombies foes can top thanks to his ominous pounding footsteps and ability to lock perk machines and the like. The stress you feel in a tight area when the Warden shows up to tear apart your tight area is rivaled by none, especially deep into a good run. You're better off dropping the soap in the shower than the docks area Pack-a-Punch hallway. Nothing good ever happens in there, trust me. I like the Wonder Weapon, although it's funny that the standard version Pack-a-Punch is probably the best variant despite being the easiest to get. Magmagad is more fun though, so I tend to roll with that one. I think this map would be thought of in radically different terms if it had just a few quality of life changes. It looks great and has lots of cool aspects, so something like an indicator of where the Pack-a-Punch machine currently is could seriously boost it out of the general public's bad graces. Woe unto me for daring to place Dead of the Night in the top 3. Rocky release aside, I think this map is super cool, and the first map I'd say I'm a genuine fan of so far. The classic horror theme is perfect, between the wide assortment of enemy variants and the ominous frayed string round start jingle. One of the big complaints about this map is the vampires, namely how frustrating their health regen prevention is. I think it's honestly a pretty unique mechanic and gives them a lot of presence to differentiate them from the normal fodder. That said, they do come in numbers that get gratuitous once you reach higher rounds. The Dracula cloning chamber must be working overtime, because there are multiple clown cars worth of the fuckers, this being made even more obvious when the red ones start showing up. I'll also admit that the amount of buildables is just beyond parity. I found them less annoying than tags because this map is a lot less tedious to navigate and the most important stuff can be done within 4 or 5 rounds, but this is definitely not a map you load up to relax and take a load off. For example, whoever decided you should have to smelt the silver for the silver bullets is out of their mind. So much stuff is totally unnecessary, and yet here we are. The Wonder Weapon is my favorite weapon in the series if you get it all the way up to Annihilator status, but the process is so tedious and exhausting that I usually just stick with the Chaos Theory. It allows you to afflict the undead with the 4 major elements of nature: fire, wind, brainwashing acid pools, and shrinking. Don't worry, it's actually useful here unlike in Shangri-La. Great fun to be had camping in the library with this thing. My highest round I've ever got in the game came from that strategy, believe it or not. Anyways, alchemy is a really neat concept that I don't see come up very often as an underlying theme in games, so I thought it was a great source to draw inspiration from. The greenhouse laboratory is a really awesome looking area, and some of the Easter egg steps are neat even if they're frustrating. This is another Easter egg that absolutely sucks to do by yourself, so I once again enlisted the help of my good buddy Emil back when I did it. The characters are fine too, some people hated him but I had no such issue. Godfrey's dry wit and murderous schizophrenic tendencies especially won me over. He's just like me for real. Overall, Dead of the Night is an awesomely themed map with a cool wonder weapon that's held back by its ridiculously convoluted setup stage. Nine is the most old school of the maps other than classified for obvious reasons. It's dead fucking simple. You want Pack-a-Punch, kill these 4 bozos, then drop their heads on a pike. Bam, dunzo. I like that, no stupid foo-foo shit to be found here. Cool unique shield and a wonder weapon that, while maybe not terribly powerful, is still creative and fun to use. The announcer is this cool Coliseum Overseer guy with a really distinct style compared to the others, and the general gimmick of being gladiators at the mercy of the crowd is really well done. There's an approval rating system that gives power-ups if you keep it high and throws a giant heap of literal shit at you, which is needed from Easter egg if you bring it to rock bottom. The Easter egg is cool, although I feel like it's harder than people give it credit for. The raw step is absolutely diabolical, and my first time playing through it I screwed up there countless times. This was actually the first Easter egg the entire series I ever did, although I sucked at the time so I was revived a whopping 39 times. This was hilarious, if not a little humiliating, but I digress. The map design is also perfect, both in size and layout. It's extremely easy to navigate, with 4 towers and a circular basement beneath the central arena. There are heaps of unique zombies here, from the gladiators and brawlers to the tigers and, dare I say, the Blightfathers. I actually don't mind them on this map because it's not as ridiculously close quarters as Voyage of Despair, so their presence is nowhere near as aggravating. All in all, this is an amazingly unique map that is both refreshing in its simplicity and admirable for its depth if you care to master it. This is a rather typical pick for number 1, so I suppose I'm ending things off in a decidedly uncontroversial way. Between this and my recent God of War marathon, I've been spending a lot of time in ancient Greek-themed video games lately, and it's clearly great source material because all of it is fantastic. It expertly factors in aspects of the mythos like the Umphilus stone, however you pronounce that, being the Pack-a-Punch, the Temple of Apollo having trials to complete, and what I would consider to be the most fun shield in the series, the Apollo's Will. Like every acclaimed map seems to have, there are 4 elemental wonder weapons to choose from, all with highly individualized upgrade paths that fit in with their patron god's nature, rather than just being random bullshit like upgrade quests often are. My personal favorite is the Hand of Uranus, since you can basically use it like a permanent thunder gun with cool visual effects. No matter what round you're on, that thing is monstrous. All of them are pretty well balanced though, and I'd say with the exception of the Hand of Gaia, you could use the other ones well into higher rounds. The Easter egg is great, being the only one other than 9 that I'd consider to be both fun and consistently doable by yourself without using fancy elixirs or the like. I will say that the step where you have to break open the wall in the bathhouse is pretty evil though. I'd sooner do the bomb step from Garad while getting pepper sprayed than pull that off successfully ever again. The boss fight is pretty confusing to me in all honesty, but it's at least a big spectacle and clearly distinct from the rest of the map, which is something not many of the other maps quite nailed. It's truly a tragedy that we'll never get to see how this storyline would have ended due to the influx of hate, considering I personally like the Chaos Cast just fine. Instead, we got the Cold War story where they merged the campaign and zombies timelines for some reason, and all the dialogue is like, scratch one flesh eater, or report that frag back to HQ, or whatever. Soullessness incarnate. But back on topic though, Ancient Evil manages to expertly toe the line between complexity and fun, making it a likely candidate for my favorite map in the entire series even. As the 9 announcer guy would say, this map is worthy, or something like that anyways. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed. I'll cover Call of Duty Cold War Zombies eventually, although I admittedly haven't played any of the maps after Firebase Z yet because I uninstalled it after the stupid Outbreak mode came out. Regardless, stay tuned down the road if you're a Zombies fan. Make sure to join our Discord server in the description if you haven't already as well. That's all for now. Deuces.